Hey guys, it's Monday morning and we are back. Honestly, I scheduled this next one without remembering it was Memorial Day. And then I thought about this today. I thought, isn't it awesome that I have the luxury of not remembering it's Memorial Day? Because this morning I woke up and saw a post from my friend Vince, who lost his brother, who was a Marine, a helicopter pilot. And, this is an important day to him. It's Memorial Day. And so I have that luxury because I haven't made a sacrifice. I haven't lost anyone, but there are a lot of people out there who do. And I just want to take a minute and remember those people who are celebrating the lives of people who they've lost. So it's not a day for hot dogs and hamburgers and, first day of summer. It really is a day that marks the memory of someone who is lost. So I wanted to bring that up and make sure we put that out there. I'm going to jump right into the podcast or the videos that we're doing, but we have a real live podcast now. If I tell my Alexa over there that I can't say her name because she'll start talking, if I tell her to play my podcast, she will. So if you guys want to tune in or listen to it, it is Small Business Connections with Ann Brennan. You can find it on iTunes. You can find it on your Echo devices. You can find it just about anywhere. We're on Libsyn and Spotify and everywhere. So please do tune into that if you will. And I want to introduce to you somebody who has motivated me to do this and put me out there. So Dan Willis, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing fantastic. I love that you opened with a Memorial Day thank you. So yeah, I want to add to that, guys. Even though in Canada we don't celebrate Memorial Day, still to all of you U.S. vets, all of U.S. currently in service, thank you for your sacrifice. It's greatly appreciated. We as Canada get to kind of enjoy the benefits of your military as well. So huge thank you to what you guys do.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, it's funny that you can forget that. I mean, I was on my ride and I came home and saw that post and I thought, God, how did I forget it was Memorial Day, So Dan, tell everybody what you do.
So I'm kind of a catch-all, really, but digital marketing consultant. I do some public speaking as well, personal branding. But usually it's hopping in and helping people fix problems is the big beast that I do. So I get regular emails from folks saying we broke it or it's broken and we need it fixed. And I hop in and fix it as best as I can.
That's great. And you and I, actually, something for everybody out here to know, you and I, we know each other through Twitter, but we met in real life as well.
Yeah. This was a real life connection, like in person. I know with COVID right now, that's a distant thing of the past, but it's kind of nice when you have that online connection and it's like, wow, this is kind of fun. But then you actually get to meet in real life too. And it's like, oh, real people with real things.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So we met at the social media marketing world just before all this. And actually, this was almost all a joke. Actually, we were like, this isn't that big of a deal. People were talking about it. We're not that worried. And then suddenly we're like, oh, I guess we are. So,
yeah. I know when I came back, actually, that was a big concern my wife had was like, well, how'd the conference go? I'm like, there was nobody there. There was no issues whatsoever. So, and then I think 2 weeks later, California was like, nope, everything shut down. Like, wow, yep. Okay, that happened quick.
Yeah, exactly. Because while we were there, I remember them, Orange County had a case and we were like, oh, yeah. It's here, so it's the first time. So when I do this, I ask for talking points and sometimes I get them and they make total sense to me. And sometimes I get them and I'm like, oh, I wonder what this is about. Yours has a lot of, I wonder what this was going to be about. So tell me what this is about. What's the bottom line?
Okay. First talking point here. What's the bottom line? Guys, for me, one of the big things that I have when I go in and people have something that's broken is often I find them chasing too many rabbits at once. And I think for everybody in business, you've heard that metaphor of, the man who chases two rabbits catches neither. Well, I find that's often the problem. And for me, one of the big things that I like to get people focused on, and it seems like a really small question that a lot of people flippantly answer, but it should actually be a question that hours get dedicated to breaking down. And that's, well, what do you want? Like, what is your metric of success? And it varies so greatly. People are like, well, it's just money, right? Money's well, it's not always money. Sometimes it's exposure. Sometimes it's building community. Sometimes it's new connections and networking. And so really for me, as I like to get anything started with anybody, it has to come down to, well, let me know what your bottom line is. Like, what is the thing that you value in whatever it is that we're working on? And until you have that really nailed down, and I can always tell the maturity of somebody in business when they realize the implications of that question, where it's not an immediate answer of, well, I just want to make money. typically there's somebody who's been in business long enough and has gone through some trials, some failures, some struggles, some adversity. They realize the implications of, well, what do you want? Being a real great starting point. So for me, like, what's the bottom line? Yeah, I mean, it's a clever play on your accounting, and the bottom line being where the dollars add up. But ultimately, defining that element of success has to be a priority first and foremost if we're going to dive in on any business endeavor of any kind.
Yeah, that is a really good point. Yeah, we just have a client right now who we've been going back and forth with, and they've got an app that they're going to be releasing, but it's really 8 months out, but they've hired me. And so we've had to say, so what is that? What are you looking at? What is that thing you want right now? Because clearly it's not click-throughs to the app, right? Because the app doesn't exist yet. So yeah. So, all right. And then you talked about what, every tool isn't for you. This is a good one. It's one that interests me because I think, you have toys, I have toys. We want to get our toys and play with these new tools, right?
Yeah. I always love this one because when I tell my clients every tool isn't for you, they go, yeah, but you play with all the tools. And it's like, well, that's my job. My job is to play with all the tools and figure out what they do and to break them. But as a company, I find, again, like this ties very closely, and these all kind of build on each other, where we always want to chase the new thing. And the reality is every new tool isn't necessarily for you. So right now people are talking about, well, do I use Zoom calls? Do I go live? Should I be restreaming? Should I be on TikTok? Should I be on Twitter? Do I need to be on Facebook? Do I need to do Facebook Live? Do I have to do Facebook Watch? So for me, the reality is, and if you start with, okay, well, what do I want to achieve? You have to understand that every tool has a specific purpose, right? So if I want to open a jar of peanut butter and I go grab my sledgehammer from the garage, I'm going to get a weird look from my wife. And I mean, it's not impossible. I may just want to see what that does. But as far as business sense goes, really understanding who you're looking to serve, who your community is, where they are, where you can communicate with them, and how you can do that most effectively to bring them value is going to save you a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of hassle. And everybody loves the 80-20 rule. I find the same can be applied to your tools. 80% of the tools that you're playing around with are absolute junk and aren't bringing you any value. And you're just beating your head against the desk trying to make them bring you value. Meanwhile, 20% of the tools that you're using are actually delivering phenomenal amounts of value to your business. So I see people that are struggling like, oh, well, I'm trying to make Twitter or Instagram work for me and it's just not producing any clients. It's like, okay, but do you have platforms that are? Well, yeah, great. Double down. Double down on the tool that's working. Don't try to make a square peg fit in a round hole. It's just it'll drive you insane forever. And all of that energy could have been put towards something that's going to produce better results down the road for sure. So for me, that's it. Like, you see a new tool, that's great. It's there. Consider it. Don't just discard it immediately, but don't try to just pick up every tool in the shed, because you're going to waste a lot of time, a lot of effort, and you may actually alienate the communities that are dedicated to you wherever you're finding success. So keep that point in consideration for sure.
That is a great point. When I started this business, I'm trying to think, it's been almost 4 years. When I started this business, Snapchat was the new thing, and everybody was talking about it. Snapchat is, well, actually, I think when I first started, it was Vine, and then it was Snapchat, and everybody's like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And I'm like, just stick with Facebook. You're good with Facebook right now. You're good with Instagram. You're good with LinkedIn. Wherever you're good, let's stick with that right now. And now we have TikTok, and we're getting the same calls. Should we be on TikTok? I'm like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah. I'm going to date myself here. When I got started, MySpace was still a thing. So like, I have seen every social platform that's come and gone, from Orkut to Google Plus to, like, I've been there. I've seen them all.
Yes.
And the reality is, like, if you chase every tool, you're going to be so busy just trying to learn how to use them that you will never actually be profiting from the tools that could have benefited your company. So yeah, definitely. Exactly. It gets nutty.
You mentioned Google Plus, and I want to mention something that they did not talk about at Social Media Marketing World, and I was actually really surprised. No, they never talked about Google Business at all. And I know it's not a social media platform per se, but it really is.
Yeah.
It really is, and nobody's talking about it.
So one of the big things, and I am super excited for Social Media Week Lima that's happening later this year, because there's a lot of conversation around that dark social. Like, is it social? Is it really social? How does it play out? There's a lot of great conversations that Jessica Phillips is putting together for that conference, and I'm excited to be a part of it. I'm excited to see what's happening. Yeah.
What is it? Social Media
Week Lima. I'm really excited for it because there's a lot of conversations that didn't necessarily come up at some of the bigger conferences that I saw in the past year. And they're conversations about things that are happening in a big way. So Messenger video came out, right?
Right.
There's going to be conversations about how to use that effectively as a business tool. There's going to be conversations about LinkedIn Live and the role that's going to play moving forward. Things like Google Business, things like Twitter video, which we're on right now, right? Like these are greatly underutilized tools in business that nobody's talking about because they're not the latest flavor of the week, but the potential that they hold is massive. Absolutely massive. So I'm pretty stoked.
If you get on them now, some of them that nobody's talking about, you're seeing it. I mean, and Google, for crying out loud, to me, Google's the most powerful thing out there in general for a search engine. And so getting on there is so important. We're seeing really great strides for people doing that. So, all right. This is my favorite thing, Dan, is community. It's you see me, I'm everywhere. I'm always talking to somebody, but you've got to build a community.
Yeah. During COVID, especially, it became very apparent which businesses have taken the time to build a community and which businesses built customers. Because when crap hits the fan, customers go wherever it's convenient. There's no brand loyalty. There's no, this is who I go to and this is what I do. I'm watching small businesses all around me shutter up and lock down. And meanwhile, right across the street, I've got this tiny little community convenience store, but it's a staple of the community here. They're doing better than they've ever done. They're crushing it. They're an essential service. They're well positioned. The community loves them. They prefer going there to a large grocery store. They know the people behind the counter. It's like, for me, when you build a community, you have relationships. You know the people in your community. You know about them. You know what their passions are. You know what their pain points are. The advantage to community is when times get tough, you're all people. You cling together. You pull together.
Right.
Versus businesses with customers, it's like, well, dime a dozen, right? If I can go somewhere else and get the same thing for cheaper, I'm just going to go do that. And so for me, it always blows me away where you look like companies like Apple, which are you an Apple or an Android lady?
I am an Apple person.
Okay. Yeah. So you'll relate from that side of the coin and I'll be gentle. But the thing is, like Apple, if you look just on the specs, I could build you a PC that would far outperform an Apple computer for far less than what you pay for an Apple. However, your loyalty is to that brand and that community that you are part of as somebody who buys Apple. And I mean, that's true on the other side too for the Android users. So don't think it's one-sided, but that loyalty isn't to the brand per se, it's to the community of people that you belong to and that you understand the language and the culture that's there. So, I mean, I think now more than ever, if you're a business that's suffering right now because you did build customers instead of a community, it's not too late. Now is a prime time to engage people and start building a community effectively, irregardless of the financial crisis.
Yeah. Actually, last week, I don't know if you saw it, but I did a whole series on transparency, empathy, and responsiveness. And that's all about building a community, doing those things, being transparent. And actually, I talked about last week, Dan, I go to a local dive bar. I'm going to admit it. I go to it because I do blues, but I go to this local dive bar and they put out that they were going to close and they were really upset. We're going to close. We're not even going to get to say goodbye to everybody, but we're closing. Well, this weekend they opened. Nice. And people came and they put something out this morning and said, we cannot believe the support of this community. I could, because when you go in, the owner walks up to your table and is like, so how's the music tonight, guys? Yeah. He's like, he's there. That's the kind of place you want. So I do want to put up something. I forgot to tell you this can happen. We just got this. I agree. But is this all you need to survive this financial crisis?
No, there's never a one-stop solution when you look at a financial crisis like this. There's not a catch-all. Like, do this one thing and all will be well. However, what I'm seeing across my clients, what I'm seeing from other consultants that I met with, what I'm seeing from other businesses in my area is those that have an active community that they're engaged with are facing these trials a lot stronger than those that aren't. Those that just built customer bases, they've got 10,000 people mailing lists and they're just constantly pumping money into ad dollars, but they didn't take the time to build out a social network and engage these people and provide value at a one-to-one relationship. are suffering in a very severe way right now. Because let's be honest, everybody just shifted over to Amazon, right? Like, oh crap, I can't get my stuff locally. I'm just going to go to Amazon. And that's killing people. It is killing businesses. So is it the only thing you need? No. Is it a great foundation to build on? Absolutely. It also is going to take blood, sweat, tears, conviction, and drive to push through this for sure. But if I have to do that while standing on solid ground versus quicksand, I'd rather do it on solid ground.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people are the key, period. It is what we've been preaching, for years, that you've got to do this. You've got to be more human with people. You've got to be the person. You've got to have a face to your brand, whether it's you or somebody else in your business. There's got to be something human to what you do.
Absolutely.
What is it? Moon pies, right? You're like, we're all watching moon pies and going, who the heck's behind this? This is so cool, right? But you've got to have that humanity to it. So, all right. I like this one. Learn ceaselessly, because I know it's something you do, because I've been watching you learn something brand new.
Yeah. In COVID, I decided, okay, well, I don't know what my client base is going to look like going through this. Is it going to pick up? Is it going to slow down? So I decided now was the time for me to double down and learn how to trade the stock market. And it's been a crazy wild ride since, I guess technically I started in November because I saw COVID coming a little bit faster. But, through these past few months, I've learned the entire thing to a point where now I'm a full-time active day trader on top of everything else that I do. So it's been amazing to learn, and I trade biopharmaceuticals too. So I got to learn that industry on top of everything else. So like, how does the stock market work? And then how does biopharmaceuticals work? I have to get a minor in whatever it is, biology, biochemistry. But the point isn't just on things of that nature. I find a lot of successful people. I'm not sure if you guys are watching this, if you haven't read Tools of Titans or Crushing It, pick up a copy of both of those things, as well as Do Hard Things would be the third one. Those 3 books will show you the value of learning ceaselessly. They encourage you to take a look at people that are professionals that dedicate hours every day. We're talking CEOs of companies. So it's not like they've got a lot of free time. They're already super strapped. They are learning endlessly. They're reading and consuming books, industry thought leaders. They pick up anything they can get, podcasts, YouTube videos. It is always, always, always going. So even in the mornings when I am up and I'm working and I'm doing my morning YouTube videos or whatever, in one ear, I've got the music that the chat is listening to. In the other ear, I've got a podcast that I'm listening to, or an audiobook I'm listening to at 1.5 speed. So that I'm constantly learning while I'm teaching, and while they're learning and I'm learning from them. It's like when you've got this ability to go, every single day is going to end with me knowing just a little bit more about something, you become a really dangerous commodity, because you're never going to be the same person from one day to the next.
Well, and you never know what you're going to get either, right? So I have people come in and they look at my bookshelves and they're like, what the heck are you actually interested in? I'm interested in everything. So I have books on sports, even though I didn't know who's that guy who's the Baltimore Ravens quarterback. I should remember his name because I met him. I didn't know who he was when I met him. I don't know. People here, because we're near Baltimore, they're like, what do you mean you didn't know him? I didn't. But I read a lot of sports books. I read a lot of business books. I read a lot of adventure books. There's so many things that I read, because you never know what you're going to learn from one thing. I was talking to somebody the other day about tools, right? They're like, I have to buy the best camera. And I'm like, wait a second, I've got a great analogy for this. I'm like, I used to do Ironman races, right? Yep. And the number of times I would pass men on $10,000 bikes was ridiculous. And it was because I spent more time on my bike than they did, right? So there's lessons to be learned in everything you do, whether it's what you're doing now or what you're learning now. So you've got to be looking for those lessons, those things that you can apply to different parts of your business.
Yeah, you know? Jim Quick. Do you know Jim Quick? Are you familiar with?
I don't, but I'm going to write his name down.
Okay, you're going to love this guy. So Jim Quick actually worked with a lot of Hollywood celebs. He had brain damage as a young child and was told essentially, you're going to live a life mentally retarded. And it's just going to be the way you are. And he refused to accept that. And he learned how to learn. And so he built this whole thing up. But he's called into Hollywood studios now to work with actors, to work with celebrities, to help them understand the process of learning and retaining that knowledge at a serious level. And what's amazing is as I was breaking in to his stuff, he was breaking down how the brain actually works, and that we often think of learning like we're building blocks like Lego, right? And it's just one thing on top of another on top of another. And in reality, it's more like a spider web, and we're just attaching all these things. So the more little nodes that you have, the more your brain starts to make these really crazy connections. So it's like, if you learn how to play a cello, well, what good is that going to do for my business? Well, out front, you may not actually see anything there, but what you realize is all of the lessons that you learn about playing a cello, on how you practice effectively, what it takes to get good at it, consistency, all of those practices can now be drawn into your business quarter. And your brain is this beautiful thing that goes, oh, all these little pieces of data that you got, you never know how those synapses are going to connect and create a new thought, a new idea. And so that's what I love to see, is as you're talking to people about things and they go, oh man, that's massive, that's huge. And you're like, I don't get it. What did I just say? And you're like, well, of course you don't get it, because you don't have all those other little pieces of information that pull together. But let me show you what it looks like. And that's how these new things get created, and minds get blown of, how did you ever come up with this? Well, I read a book about a quarterback for the St. Louis Rams or whatever, right? Like, I don't know how it came. It just came.
Right, exactly. So, all right, I want to talk about embrace failure. Again, this is another subject that I absolutely love, because I think too many people are afraid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a couple of people that will watch this video and have worked with me or know me, and I'm sure you've heard me tell you to go fast and break things, because I say it all the time. And you need to go fast and break things. Anybody that says that they can conclusively understand how something is going to perform before they actually put it into practice is insane or lying. You never know. Right. You never know how people are going to respond to it. And so the idea with failure is, we often have this really bad mentality that comes from our education system of an A is a pass and an F is a fail. And if you've had an F, that's something terrible. And the reality is it's not that. If you get a win, that's great. It feels really good. But every win that you have is built on the foundation of thousands of losses, hundreds of losses, tens of losses, whatever it is, right? Michael Jordan got so good at dropping basketballs into a hoop because he missed a lot of basketballs in the hoop. Like, it's the ability to take that loss, to take it on the chin, learn from it, analyze it, and not lose momentum moving forward. When you start to look at failure as opportunity as opposed to a hindrance, you pick up momentum in a very serious way of, okay, so when I win, I win. And when I lose, I learn, I innovate, and I grow into more wins. So when I win, I win. And when I lose, I win. Now you're a beast. Now you're a really scary thing out in the market, right?
Right, exactly. Dan, I'm going to make a confession. So for the first 2 years of my business, I grew and grew and grew, and it was amazing. It was so much fun. And it was like, all the success, right? And then last year, we didn't grow at all. And as a matter of fact, we took some steps back, and I went, what in the world? What is happening? What is going on? And then I don't even remember where I heard it, but somebody said, when you first started, you weren't afraid of losing. And, and I thought, and I totally changed our attitude, and we have grown so much since I changed the attitude and said, you know what, I'm going, if I fell, I fell, it's fine. It's that willingness to risk.
Absolutely. And what I love to see is when people say, well, that works when you're a small business, but not when you get big. And I'm like, okay, well, I appreciate what you're saying, but look at Virgin right now, or look at Tesla right now, and tell me that those CEOs aren't the leading industry creators because they're still willing to go fast and break things. Like,
right.
Richard Branson goes on, we're just going to build space shuttles and take people into space now. Like, I know we do airlines and radios and production and entertainment, but we're going to be space now too. Tesla's like, well, I'm going to create whatever I want. I want to create flamethrowers. I want to drill giant tunnels under the ground. I want to create international free Wi-Fi for everybody. Like, the guy wakes up and goes, okay, what can I go fast and break today? And that is exactly what is driving the winners in industry forward versus companies like Ford or GM or General Electric that are like, nope, we're just going to be old standby and do what we know we can succeed at. Like, you're falling behind because you're not willing to go fast and break things. You're not willing to fail. Yeah, I mean, it's sad.
Google has a whole section that is just right. I am right on this, right? They have a whole section that is aimed at just innovation. And within that, they give bonuses to people for failure.
Yeah. So it's not just that with Google. That's part of it with Google, but you're actually encouraged to take 20% of your time and put it towards a personal project. So like, great, this is your job at Google, and that's 80% of your time. But the other 20%, you are supposed to be working on a personal project that is whatever you want, completely outside of the box, do whatever you want with it. But work on that, put it together, and then they come together and present those things. And you get some pretty crazy stuff out of Google, which is why people are like, Google's kind of doing everything. And that's because they've embraced that concept of, yeah, everybody in our business has a different understanding of how things should work, how they should be applied, what we can use them for. And when you embrace that innovation, you open all kinds of different doors that otherwise would be closed to you. Amazon does something very similar. For those that remember life before Amazon, when Amazon got started, it was literally like, it was a bookstore. It was Barnes and Noble online. And I remember people laughing at it, like, why would I buy my books online instead of just going into Barnes and Noble? And now we look at Amazon, it's like, okay, so now they're cloud services, they're AI cars, they're every product you can imagine, they're audiobooks. They now own Twitch, which is live broadcasting, live streaming in the gaming industry. They've got Prime Video. They're an entertainment provider now. Like this idea of constant innovation, irregardless of failure, allows for every door to be open to you. And you never know what's going to work. But as long as you're willing to go fast and break things and fail frequently and learn from that, it's going to be fantastic for you. What I love with Google is like Google Plus. Did it work? No. Doesn't matter. No. Google's bigger than it's ever been. Right,
exactly. Kevin asked earlier, is this the only thing you need? And we said no. But this part is important, this embracing failure, because you're looking at people who are looking at their businesses and going, okay, well, I either open or I don't. Yeah. And that's not the way to think, right? I either open or I don't, or I create something new and a whole new stream of income. And that's what we've seen. I don't know about your businesses, but we've seen that on our end, the businesses we're working with, the ones who have been very creative in how they do things. I think those are the ones who are going to survive. The ones who are like, okay, we can't do this, but we can do this. Let's switch it up for right now. And then maybe that's a whole new stream of income later.
Yep. As I see more and more Chapter 11s come in, and it's every day now, I'm seeing them, even big guys like Hertz Chapter 11 over the weekend, right? Like, as I see more and more people having this happen, it's like the motto on every business as you walk in, there should be a giant poster for everyone to read that says "Evolve or Die," because that is where we are. And if you think that, I'm in an industry that's in a bubble, it's protected from this, I'm sorry, it's just not true. Because the really amazing thing that's about to happen here is, and we've seen it happen historically, whenever we go through a global crisis, and I'm not talking independent, like even a continent even, when we have a global crisis as the human race, the level of innovation that follows immediately after is astounding. So you think World War II, well, out of World War II, we got nuclear energy, we got space travel, we got the cure for cancer potentially with chemotherapy and whatever else we're doing with it. Like it's just innovation skyrocketed. We got computers. We've got like the entire.
It's a whole different world,
right? And so what we have exactly, and that is where we are now with a global crisis. Is coming out of this, the level of innovation will be like something we haven't seen since post World War II. Yeah, which is. That's huge. It's huge. And people get scared of that, where it's like, whoa, we're not ready for that. My advice is don't get scared, get excited. As long as you have that mantra of evolve or die, and that's in your head and you're willing to embrace that, the opportunities right now are monumental. But you have to see it, and you have to have that perspective and that willingness to embrace it, I think.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. This was really fun. I have had a really good time talking to you. And then I have to make another confession. I had no idea what this was until this morning. And I looked, and it's the Millennial Motivator. But part of it is that I have known you as Dan. For some reason, I always only see you as Dan. And so I've never looked at your Twitter handle, but this is how people will find you. They'll find you on Twitter.
Yep.
You also have a YouTube channel. So if they go to your Twitter account, is there a link there to your YouTube channel? So,
yeah, there's a link there.
Since I've made 2 confessions, why don't you tell everybody what you told me about YouTube and what you did there?
Oh, okay, yeah. So I admitted to Anne that I have all but given up on polish. I'm done polishing video content. Let's be honest. You guys don't need my 15-second advertisement at the start of a YouTube video. Hey guys, I'm Dan, and today we're going to do this. So push this button and do this thing. And make sure you share it out. And I cut all of that. Now I just go live every morning with whatever I'm doing and bring value.
Right. Oh no, you've frozen. Hold on. Speaking of polish, all right, he's going to come back in just 1 minute.
And people go, well, that's okay. So people are like, well, that's easy for you. You know, you've done Twitch, you're a Twitch partner, you're a YouTube partner, you do Twitter video all the time. It's easy for you. And I go, no. It's easy for me now because I've put in thousands of hours of doing this and being willing to not have that polish. You guys can go to my YouTube channel and look at the first few videos on there. There are entire videos where all you're going to see is me doing this. Because there is no audio on those things. And I leave those videos up there. They still get views. I leave those videos up there as a demonstration that it is better to create something that's not perfect, that's out there for the world to see, than it is for you to hold something until it's just right and put it out there. Right. But yeah, full confession, I've got videos out there on the web that have absolutely no audio. And let me tell you, they were value-packed episodes, but you'll never know. Unless, I guess, if you could read lips, maybe. But
exactly. I just love that you did that. I think that's really great. All right, let me talk about what's coming up tomorrow, and then we will say goodbye. Give me 1 minute. So tomorrow, I'm going to talk about, I swear to God, sometimes I pull these things right out of my ear. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about 3 ways to build a community. I think it's just that important. We have to do that. And I'm going to give you some tips that I have used because I've built my entire business around community. I love what you said, Dan, about that, about the businesses who survived this, had that. We talk about our agency being an agency of moms. That's what we are. And we really didn't lose clients during this time. And I think we didn't because we are moms who care about our clients, and we've built this community where they know that, right?
I love it. Well, I can't wait to catch it. I'll be watching for sure.
Well, thanks. And I am so glad you came back on. I want to let you know you can still find Dan over at, and actually, if you're not great at Twitter, go over and look up Dan Willis. He's so super easy to find. You can't miss him. But this is his Twitter handle. Dan, thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it.
Anytime. Had a blast.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye, guys.